Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating analysis of how the modern tech industry basically engineers our dissatisfaction. I mean, have you ever wondered why perfectly good technology starts feeling obsolete the literal second something newer is announced? Well, we're going to unpack the mechanics, the psychology, and hidden costs behind what our source material calls the upgrade illusion. Let's just jump right into it. Our source opens with this highly relatable story about a guy named Marcus. Picture this. Marcus is standing in line at the Apple store on a Friday morning in September, and he is ready to drop $1,199. But what? What is he actually getting for that kind of cash? Well, according to the breakdown, he's getting a phone that's maybe 3% faster than the one already sitting in his pocket. His current phone is only 18 months old. It runs every app he needs, takes incredible photos, and honestly works perfectly. Yet somehow, he feels like he's falling behind. And this Marcus story perfectly illustrates a trap that so many of us fall into. The timeline goes a little something like this. After you buy that new phone, the excitement lasts for exactly 72 hours. By Monday, that shiny new device just feels completely normal, basically indistinguishable from your old one. But fast forward 18 months, and thanks to flashy new keynotes and nonstop marketing, that phone is suddenly going to feel obsolete all over again. And the craziest part? That 24-month payment plan is still quietly draining your bank account. Which brings us to this absolutely crucial point, captured perfectly in a quote from the source material. It says, "You are not buying technology. You are buying scheduled dissatisfaction." That is wild, right? The core thesis here is that tech companies don't necessarily need to make your old device worse. They just need to make you feel like it's worse. They're manufacturing a psychological desire, rather than delivering a true functional leap in innovation. Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the three-part trap. To really understand how consumers are kept on the hook, we have to look at the specific machinery used to keep us perpetually upgrading. According to the analysis, the tech giants utilize three main mechanisms to drive this illusion. First up, software degradation. This is where operating systems slowly tax older hardware. Second, hardware repair limits, which make fixing a device artificially difficult or super expensive. And third, the annual release cycle itself, which honestly acts like a psychological operation to make you unhappy with what you currently own. Let's look a little closer at each of these. We're starting with software, and I want you to look at this number, $500 million. That is a massive settlement Apple paid back in 2017 after admitting to deliberately throttling the performance of older iPhones. They said it was to compensate for aging batteries, but it really highlighted a bigger issue. Beyond intentional throttling, each new operating system inherently demands more processing power and RAM, so the manufacturer is essentially updating your perfectly good phone right into degradation, and surprise, surprise, the only solution they offer is buying their newest hardware. And that brings us to the second mechanism, hardware repair limits. When your battery eventually degrades, replacing it through official channels can cost anywhere between $89 and $119, and you usually have to jump through hoops to get an appointment at a certified location. But the actual cost of that battery part? It's about $15. The rest of that price tag is just labor and artificially restricted access. Faced with a steep repair bill on a 3-year-old phone, most consumers just decide, well, I might as well put that money toward a brand new device, which of course is exactly what the manufacturer intends. Moving on to Section 2, the myth of better. Let's be real for a second and consider the reality for about 95% of users. If you compare a flagship phone from 2022 to one from 2025, your daily tasks are completely identical. Social media, texting, calling, streaming, checking email. Sure, the 2025 phone might load an app 3 to 5% faster, or it might have a screen that's slightly brighter when you're standing in direct sunlight. But indoors, in your actual daily utility, the functional difference is basically zero. You literally cannot feel a 5% speed improvement while you're just scrolling through Instagram on the couch. And the source backs this up by neutrally citing a fascinating study from Wayne State University. In blind tests, everyday users could not reliably tell the difference between flagship phones across multiple generations when they were just performing their normal tasks. They could really only see a difference in highly specific benchmark tests designed by engineers. What this tells us is pretty eye-opening. Consumers aren't really paying $1,000 for a functionally better experience. They're paying for the psychological satisfaction of knowing they hold the newest version. All right, let's look at Section 3, the true cost. The financial math on this is kind of staggering. The source compares two identical tech users over a 30-year adult life. Person A is the upgrader. They're caught in the cycle, getting a new phone every 2 years, buying new laptops on the manufacturer's suggested schedule, spending about $2,800 a year. Then you have person B, the maintainer. They keep their phone for 4 years, buy refurbished tech, simply replace batteries when needed, and they spend just $900 a year. Over 30 years, person A spends $84,000 on personal tech, while person B spends only $27,000. That is a $57,000 difference in direct spending alone. But here is the real kicker: $214,000. This is the opportunity cost, because if person B took that $1,900 annual difference and instead invested it in an index fund at an 8% compound annual return for those 30 years, it would grow to nearly $250,000. That is the staggering true lifetime cost of the upgrade illusion. It is just wealth continually extracted through manufactured dissatisfaction. And, the costs aren't just financial. The source outlines a fairly catastrophic environmental toll as well. We are talking about 50 million metric tons of global e-waste generated every single year. That involves the destructive mining of rare earth minerals like lithium and cobalt, very often in places with poor labor protections. Plus, just manufacturing a single smartphone produces around 70 kilograms of CO2 emissions. In fact, the vast majority of a device's lifetime carbon footprint comes strictly from manufacturing it, not using it. So upgrading unnecessarily is quite literally a heavy burden on the environment. Which brings us to the final part, Section 4, Escaping the Cycle. So the good news? Escaping this loop is entirely possible once you see the machinery for what it is. The source outlines a highly logical, actionable 4-step escape plan. Step 1. Define your actual daily use case. Do you just text, email, and stream? Then your current device is likely perfect. Step 2. Perform simple maintenance. Just replace a degraded battery instead of tossing the whole phone. Step 3. When you absolutely must buy refurbished. A 2-year-old refurbished flagship performs exactly like a new mid-range phone but costs half as much. And finally, Step 4. Set your upgrade intervals based on literal necessity. Wait until the hardware physically can't run the software you need, rather than letting a marketing cycle dictate your purchases. And tying right back into that step about maintenance, think about the number 80. A 2022 survey by Assurian found that the average smartphone has 80 unused apps just sitting there eating up storage and processing resources. Often, when you feel your device getting sluggish, it's not actually a hardware failure at all. It's just software bloat. Simply cleaning up your files or doing a quick factory reset can totally restore the speed and performance you thought was gone forever. So, to summarize the absolute core takeaway of this explainer, unplug from the illusion, keep what works, invest the difference. Your perfectly functional 3-year-old phone or that 5-year-old laptop, it's really not holding you back. The dissatisfaction you're feeling isn't coming from the device in your hand, it's coming from a multi-billion-dollar marketing machine that absolutely needs you to be dissatisfied in order for it to survive. I want to leave you with this final thought to reflect on as we wrap up today. When the next big tech keynote rolls around and the hype machine kicks into high gear, will you be standing in line to pay for a 3% improvement? Or will you recognize the illusion, keep your perfectly good device, and invest the difference? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what you're being sold.